Hello, I'm Emily. I have a lot of things to hold, so I might be juggling a little bit. Since I'm an illustrator, people ask me a lot if I went to art school, and I did go to art school. It's a good question. I went to art school, but I never really fit in. I was really interested in kind of illustrative, narrative art. All my favorite artists were comic artists or children's illustrators or, popular filmmakers. And I heard this verbatim. This is a panel from Dan Klaus's Art School Confidential, and I heard this exact thing. You probably 1 in 100 maybe will be able to do what you want for a living. But I was not as optimistic as the people in this panel. I'm a professional daydreamer, but I'm also fiercely practical. And so I'm also very realistic, and this is what I thought I would be doing. I thought this is probably my career prospects were to work in the service industry. And maybe go to graduate school, I don't know. But I thought probably something, coffee shop, waitress, and I just make my art at night whenever. And that did happen. I worked in a video store during the day in Athens, Georgia, after I graduated from art school. I worked at an independent video store called Vision Video during the day, and then at nighttime, I was making my stuff. But there was this really great happenstance the year that I graduated from art school, which was 2005. And that was that Etsy.com started, and it was just a really wonderful confluence because I'm a Luddite pretty much. I mean, especially at that time, I had no idea what I was doing online. So the fact that Etsy was really easy to set up, it made it unintimidating for me to start a shop. And so I thought, what the heck, started this shop, making things at night, working during the day. But then this magical, very unexpected thing began to occur, which was that I was able to phase out shifts at the video store slowly but surely. And eventually, I was making my things full time. I was making my paintings, making dolls, making all the stuff that I do for a living. And this would be a good time to show you what I make. These are just grabs from my portfolio online, but this is my work. And I predominantly make drawings and paintings, but I also make dolls, and there's some little sketches. I like to design all kinds of things. So here's some paper goods I made, just random lettering, different stuff. And so I grew my business, and I was making all these kinds of things. But the problem, it's a really good problem, but the problem is kind of how many things I like to make. Meanwhile, making this business for myself meant that I could move wherever I wanted, and kind of inventing my own job meant that I could live wherever I wanted. So I abandoned the South because it was always kind of at odds with me, and I was able to move first to Brooklyn and then ultimately to Portland. And I'm just growing my business, making my paintings, making dolls, making all kinds of things. But like I said, it kind of became a little bit overwhelming because I like to do so many things, and I got to a point where I needed to kind of hone in on something that I ultimately wanted to make sure that I do, before I die. Not to be too dramatic, but, you want to make sure, there are these things that kind of rise to the fore that you want to make sure that you accomplish. And for me, that was making children's books. And so I began to kind of gear everything that I did towards that, with that goal in mind. And I had, I'm sorry. In the meantime, I took a detour and went on national television making dolls, which was not towards my end goal. This is me with Martha Stewart. So that was a little bit of a weird, a sidestep. But I realized doing something like that made me realize that isn't ultimately what I wanted to do or where I wanted to put my energy. So I was approached by a craft book publisher, and to do a paper doll book, And it was really exciting because I love paper dolls, and I already had some paper dolls in my web shop, which is, I'm presuming, how they put two and two together. But and I wanted to gear that project, even though it was a craft publisher. I used my little sneaky ways and kind of like snuck all of these narratives into it. And so that was one way of kind of creating kind of a children's book within this craft book, and kind of like molding this project to my will. And that came out in 2009. And I also, this is a really good example of the kind of if you build it, they will come philosophy. I made all of these illustrations for kind of an imaginary children's book, and it was called Oddfellow's Orphanage, and it was about all of these, all the orphans and the caretakers that lived at this magical orphanage. And it was essentially illustrations that were waiting for a larger story. I made little vignettes. Here's one below the Ava portrait. But otherwise, it was just kind of like the framework for a children's book that was yet to exist. And I just put that out there. I put it online and, sold the paintings, and it was just one of those things that was within my grasp to do at the time. And in the background, I had actually been contacted by about 4 or 5 children's editors, and just nothing ever really gelled. I was making book dummies with them. I was working on kind of getting things going, but just nothing really came together. And so I made this solo show at Land in 2009, and if you're visiting, it's a beautiful gallery and store on Mississippi in North Portland. And I did this carnival show that's my favorite solo series to work to date. And that really gave me a chance to just kind of get better. I mean, I'm always working on my own personal work in the background, even now that I'm working on book projects and kind of more singular things like that. So this gave me a chance to just like get better, focus, and then in the background I'm still working on book dummies, whatever, working towards that goal. And then magically, again, the editor-in-chief, the now editor-in-chief at Random House Children's Books, wrote to me about the Oddfellow series I had created and put up online. And she is now my editor, and her name's Mallory Lore, and she wanted to make an actual fully realized, real book out of the Oddfellow series. And so I fleshed it out into a chapter book, and it's illustrated in graphite, and it came out earlier this year. And now we're working on another book together, but that's just it was just a wonderful example of somebody kind of doing what was in their grasp in this kind of very small way, just putting something out there and someone grasping on and then like wanting to make it, a gatekeeper kind of coming in and helping you to make it real and make it the fully formed thing you wanted it to be. So now, currently, I just keep up. Here's a little screen shot of my store. Just keep my store and do my personal work in the background. And I have a somewhat neglected blog. There's a little screenshot of it. And then currently I'm working on a picture book with my same editor called Dream Animals, and that'll be out next fall. And I can't share any of the final art, but these are all sketches from it, so I just wanted to share a little glimpse. And I am currently doing all the final work. It's due in like a month, so that's like all of my efforts are going there right now. But yeah, this is all just to say that I'm a misfit. I was a misfit, and when I was in art school, the reason I thought I would have to work in a coffee shop is because I didn't think that there was I could make a place for myself. But we live in a time where any misfit can make a place for themselves and invent their own job with, like bravery and love and tons of hard work, emphasis on the hard work. You can make that seemingly imaginary thing real. And the thing that I wasn't banking on and that I didn't really understand when I was thinking coffee shop, grad school, whatever, these are the only options, I didn't realize that the alchemy that makes your imaginary thing real is the audience. And when I found that alchemy, you know, these little people from, a few people from here, a few people from here, a few people from countries I've never visited and maybe will never visit, you know, people from all over the world coming together to like make your thing real. That's, in The Velveteen Rabbit, that's kind of the thrust of the story, is that love makes you real. And it might sound a little dramatic to say about, you know, your internet audience or, you know, your customers, but in a way, they do make you real. And so be brave, misfits, find your audience, make your imaginary thing real, and thank you very much.